Okay, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that delicious conference-provided lunch. Hope the chicken wasn't too rubbery for you. Please take your seats for this next session. So welcome back again. Let's get started with our Goddard Plus Speaker of the Day. This next segment is generously sponsored by Blue Origin. Thank you, Blue Origin. And I'd like to introduce and welcome Nicky Fox, Heliophysics Division Director of the Science Mission Directorate at NASA. Nicky, welcome and take it away.
Thank you so much. And thanks so much for inviting me to be here today. It's always a pleasure to be able to give everyone an update on what's going on in the Heliophysics Division, and also what is particularly with, I know the space weather panel is coming up next. So I think you have my charts. If we can share them, that would be fantastic. There you go, right on cue. Thank you so much. So we'll hop straight to the next chart because I want to get straight in because there's always a lot to tell you about the Heliophysics Division. So we continue to experience incredible growth. One thing that we were able to receive at the beginning of 2020 was our midterm assessment of our 2013 decadal survey, with some great recommendations for moving forward, confirming that the priorities were still the same. And so we are moving forward, as you'll see in the upcoming slides, to really finish up everything in that decadal and to get ready for the next one, which is most important. But right now, our program reflects the results of a really concerted effort to launch missions. They were developed over the past decade, and moving forward, increasing the cadence of flight opportunities, as you'll see in a minute. But we're also driving growth in many other areas, space weather in particular, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more detail, space situational awareness, orbital debris measurements, scientific discovery, of course, but also application of some of our new capabilities in artificial intelligence, in machine learning, embracing citizen science. I actually was at a great talk this morning about sounding rockets, and one of the new goals is to have an active flare campaign where they set up these sounding rockets and wait for the sun to have a flare, and how we're going to be able to incorporate citizen science to help us look for those flares. So even just today, pushing forward with that one. Data analysis and archiving, really making sure that we are enhancing data assimilation and modeling, and of course, technology development. Over the period of just 2 years, 2018 to 2020, we successfully launched 5 missions. Gold, the Space Environment Test Beds, Parker Solar Probe, of course, you know I'm pretty fond of that one, ICON, and the Solar Orbiter collaboration. But more than just doing that, obviously there's going to be a little pause in our launch cadence, but we've really leaned forward to accelerate mission selections. So we did take the guidelines in the 2013 decadal, and as you'll see in the next chart, we currently have 12 missions in formulation or development and another 7 under study. So that really represents the largest increase in missions in the history of the division. And if we can go to the next chart, you will see that incredible growth, because all of those, you can see a couple of missions there. And if you wouldn't mind just hitting the up arrow, you will then we'll be able to see all of the new selections that should appear. If we could, oh, wrong way, never mind. Maybe we'll see them, maybe we won't. If any luck, you'll see in a moment appearing all the new selections. There we go, on cue. The ones that we just made in the last few months. So I'm not going to go into all of these, but you can see 12 missions there in some form of formulation or development, or recently passing their KDPC. But we have a lot going on. We'll have Punch, Hermes, and IMAP, all getting ready to go through their PDRs and their KDPCs very, very soon. Tracer's just a little bit behind those. And then welcoming to the portfolio Solar Cruiser and Glide, that it will both launch on the ESPA ring with IMAP. Solar Cruiser is a tech demo of the largest solar sail yet to fly. And Glide is going to be a mission looking at the Earth's exosphere and how the global exosphere responds to things coming to us in the solar wind. Also, I'll just note EUVST is a partnership with JAXA to do the next generation solar telescope. So that's Solar C, following along from the successful Yoko and Hinode missions. And then last but not least, GDC, that is our next LWS mission that is going to be 6 spacecraft orbiting around the Earth, focusing on the ionosphere thermosphere, and in particular how space weather from above meets with terrestrial weather from below. And I also should note EASY, I forgot that one. That is 3 CubeSats that are going to be looking at the Earth's aurora in great detail. So lots of new exciting stuff joining the portfolio. We'll go to the next chart, please. I'll just touch on the space weather strategy because I know the panel coming up after me is talking about space weather. Also just left a very interesting discussion at Helio 2050, our big community workshop, right? Just concluded their space weather discussion with a lot of really excellent input from the community. So we're moving forward with our NASA space weather strategy to enable us to advance the science of space weather, to empower a technological society to safely thrive on Earth, and also to expand into space. And I'm not going to belabor that, but as you can see, we put a lot of effort into our strategy. So if we go to the next chart, you can see how we are implementing that strategy. So here's some of our recent activities. We're working with we put our own strategy into an implementation phase, but we're working closely with NOAA and with the Department of Defense on a framework to help us transition NASA research techniques and technology that is relevant to space weather operations. And so it's kind of like a test bed where we'll actually really work to transition our NASA research and get it into the hands of the operators. We also joined with NSF on some space weather quantification of uncertainty with an unpronounceable acronym. We continue to release our R to O to R calls, so that now including that additional transition step to really support that framework I just talked about. Anything that is showing promise for use in an operational environment, we're now giving an extra step to really make sure that that research is kind of operations ready to go into that test bed. We've had a very rapid turnaround on our Hermes instrument package, led of course by our scientists at NASA Goddard in support of Gateway and the Artemis. They have completed their single design review, looking forward to their KDP in this fall, and also the putting together of the interdisciplinary science teams to really take that amazing space weather platform that we're going to use the Gateway for in that lunar orbit to allow us to get great space weather data. So a lot of excitement around that, a lot of community support as well, and interest in that first payload on the Gateway. Go to the next chart, please. And then continuing with space weather and sort of looking ahead. Of course, you're all very familiar with the fact that the Pro-SWIFT bill recently passed, and we had a lot of actions were already underway for NASA, but we are really stepping up to support the interagency efforts with our space weather observations, research, modeling, and again, getting those results into the operational forecast environment. We are developing space weather instrument pipeline for future opportunities. So just as we were able to take advantage of the opportunity on the Gateway, we want to position ourselves to be able to take advantage of any opportunity that may come up. Because the wonderful thing about being a heliophysicist is wherever you send our instruments, we can make incredibly valuable heliophysics measurements. And so we're putting some thought into developing that instrument pipeline. We are in the process of convening a Space Weather Council. We are waiting for a few more documents to get signed and a few things to just get put into place, but thank you to all of the community that self-nominated. We had a huge response to that, and we are getting ready to roll out that Space Weather Council to really give us community perspective on our space weather program. Engaging with international partners is a very important thing for us. We are actively working with ESA on their L5 Lagrange mission to provide a great space weather platform, looking at putting NASA instrumentation on that. Also working with the Canadian Space Agency to look at the possibility of hosting a space weather package on their Arctic observing mission. So that's actually an Earth science mission. While they'll be looking down at the Earth, we will be looking up at space weather. So a really great partnership there. Daedalus, a partnership with ESA with their Earth observing program. That is going to be a tremendous collaboration with our GDC, our global, our Geospace Dynamics Constellation mission, looking at a slightly different science focus, but really, really coupling in with what we can do. And again, a big benefit for space weather. And then the last one I've named there is SNIPE, which is a partnership with the Korean Space Agency, KASI. Well, that's a CubeSat mission that's going to fly in an interesting constellation, and we're providing some support for SNIPE and making that a very active collaboration. So lots going on there. Also, we are in the process of transitioning the RAD instrument that is on the Curiosity rover from a planetary division into a heliophysics division asset to engage the space weather community and support forecasting research on Mars. Already used it, actually. You may be aware that just a couple of weeks ago, there was a large Mars-directed flare and coronal mass ejection that came off the side of the sun. Thanks very much to the Moon to Mars office at Goddard. They very quickly put together the plots and the models for what the impact on Mars would be, and got it bang on, and actually were able to, it was particularly crucial because it was the morning that the Ingenuity helicopter was going to fly. And so they were able to give an all clear, and that RAD instrument in fact verified exactly what the orbit had predicted. And then the last thing there is moving ahead with orbital debris coordination. We are supporting the agency by looking at how we can make orbital debris measurements from some of our space weather platforms. Obviously, we're very interested in the natural environment and how that is changing with space weather, but a big impact is of course how the orbital debris is driven by space weather. And I'll go to the next chart, please. Where I think I have a planning for the next decadal. So unfortunately, I've not been able to participate so far in the Goddard Symposium, which I'm very sad about. But the reason for that is we are hosting the Heliophysics 2050 workshop this week. It is a community workshop, started on Monday. Full 5 days. I am delighted to report that we have more than 1,100 people registered for that workshop, which is phenomenal. And we are having between 300 and 400 people actually physically engaged in every one of our discussion sessions. So it is just an amazing meeting going on. I've been really enjoying listening in to all of the community-led discussions. Shout out, there's a lot of Goddard scientists that are actively involved, either leading sessions, convening sessions, or taking, being big community voices in all of the discussions. So really, really proud of the community, hearing some wonderful themes, particularly the need for a unified heliophysics community moving forward, how to make the community accessible to really increase our diversity and inclusion, really opening up opportunities for early career. Something as anyone who knows me knows, I'm very passionate about our early career community and really supporting them. And so we were purposeful in going out and recruiting early career scientists to help in every single stage of the workshop, because really the next decadal, the 2023-24 heliophysics decadal, while people like me are going to be around to help implement it, it really is for the future generations to take that decadal and move it forward into the future. And so that's why the focus was on 2050 to really take it beyond the next decade. So much great stuff going on in the community right now. Also, we have a call for mission concept studies that will inform the next decadal. They'll form those concept studies that will go into the planning for the decadal. And of course, this one also the first time we have a decadal we're being joined by NOAA as well as NSF. So a lot of conversations going on with the Academy as we get ready for the big push to the next decadal. Still hoping, I know COVID makes things a little bit difficult to plan, but still hoping to kick off that decadal survey later this year. And we'll go to my final chart, please. just to kind of give you a wrap up of what is going on, sort of our division as we look ahead. So I already mentioned we are looking forward to the confirmation of a lot of missions in 2021. So I talked about Hermes on the Gateway, Punch, IMAP, Tracers, and Sunrise. They were all selected as part of our SMEX 2016 call. Sorry, not IMAP, but Punch, Tracers, and Sunrise were all selected there. IMAP, you'll all be familiar with, going out to the L1 point, providing measurements of the acceleration close to the sun, so things coming to us from the sun in the solar wind, and also mapping out things that are coming in from interstellar space, and so really imaging beautifully the boundary between where the solar wind stops and interstellar space starts. And then I did talk about our sort of expansion to Mars as we expand to better support space weather throughout the heliosphere. Escapade is a dual small spacecraft mission that will go to Mars, studying both the upstream solar wind and then one of the platforms moving around into the tail to kind of look at the cause and effect in the Martian magnetosphere. So a lot of great missions joining us, hopefully going through successful confirmations this calendar year. We have established a heliophysics technology program, and we are using that. We're looking at how we actually want to set up a technology office right now. So we're in the planning stages for that, but you'll see the technology program really coming into its own in the next few months. Maintaining a healthy RNA program, of course, the bedrock of any division is the solid RNA program. We will maintain our DRIVE initiative, and we'll be taking our DRIVE science centers. We currently have 9 in phase 1. We'll be taking, we hope, 2 into phase 2 planning. So great stuff there. And then looking at how we can use connect our observations from all of our missions, including ground-based observations from other divisions or other agencies, and really sort of embracing the idea of a global heliophysics system observatory. Also wanted to flag, as I mentioned, we were closing in on completing everything from the current decadal. We are continuing our pre-formulation activities ahead of a call for dynamic. That is the last of the missions that was recommended for the current decade. And so you'll see very soon a draft AO coming out for a call for dynamic. I've already talked a lot about the decadal survey, and the one, we do continue to implement all of our idea actions into our heliophysics strategy. And so I think you will agree, if we go to my last chart, that with everything going on in the heliophysics division, it is a great time to be a heliophysicist, and hashtag HelioRocks. Thanks, I'll stop now.
All right, well, thank you so much, Nikki. Fascinating stuff. So as division director, a question for you, you spoke a lot about the decadal and how that helps prioritize, what we should be doing, what you should be doing. But then how do you balance that with changes in leadership, changes in the NASA administration, changes in the presidential administration, and shifting priorities that come from that? How has that worked between that and what comes out of decadal?
So our decadal is always sort of our number one. It's like our document that we always go with, the decadal plan. It is a community-based plan. It is blessed, of course, by the National Academy. So that is always our highest priority. And the first thing we do is make sure that we are following our decadal. As other agency priorities come up, we support them as best we can, but really the decadal is our overarching document, which is why you see me so giddy with excitement as to how many voices are currently in our planning for the next decadal, because it is for the community, it is by the community, and it's really just our job to kind of steward it through. But our decadal priorities are always our highest priorities.
Great, thank you so much. So one quick lightning question for you, that is what we have time left for. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night? Okay, so I'll answer that with two things. One, every time Parker Solar Probe goes behind the sun and I don't get a beacon, that keeps me up at night because I have to wait for a little green love heart to arrive in my text message in the morning that tells me I've had a green beacon from Parker Solar Probe. So it doesn't matter, 8th perihelion in the books now, 9th perihelion, I will still worry about it. So that's a big one. But other things that keep me up at night are really just probably less now because I'm so happy to see how many of the community are stepping up. But really for me, making sure the next decadal is a really groundbreaking document, that it is forward thinking, that it is leaning forward, that there is technology that needs to be developed now to enable science in the future. So making sure that we're setting the community up for success in the next decade and beyond, and also that our community is really welcoming to anybody, that we are really welcoming diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility in our community. So they're the things that probably excite me, that maybe keep me up at night.
That's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, diversity is critical. Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Nikki. We really appreciate it. That was fantastic. Okay, and also thanks to Blue Origin for sponsoring that. Now we'll jump right over to our next session, like Nikki said, to talk about space weather. Let's go.